All right, this video is to show basically a pattern for replicating data from one list to another in two of the sort of most problematic columns, or column types, I should say. So in SharePoint lists, there are people columns and choice columns, both of which can allow multiple selections. And that tends to trip people up because when you want to work with the output of those, you often get thrown into an apply to each loop because the data that's stored in there is an array. And it becomes especially problematic when you want to replicate that data from one field in one list to a similar field in another list. So that's the scenario we're looking at here. I have three lists. I have list A, list B, and list C. List A just has a title, this multi-select person field, and then a category field, which allows multiple selections, also allows add-in, so it's configured to allow people to manually enter a value if it's not already there. So that's kind of the worst case scenario for what to do with that data or how to replicate that data. Now, I had done a video on this a while back. I just can't find the video, but in that scenario was just looking at the multi-select person field. So my list B here is just title and MSP for multi-select person, but I created a new list, list C, which is the multi-select person plus that category. So this is a duplicate of list A as of right now. So I just wanted to show kind of both scenarios. So basically the idea is I have a flow that I've already created. If I select the three dots here and go to automate, there is a flow called send item to list B and C, and that is this flow. Now this is in this case, I'm using a for selected item trigger because I want to be able to run it on a specific list item. If your trigger is something else, then how you get the data, how you work with the data might be a little bit different, but just we're focusing in on the pattern for that particular type of column, not an overall flow for every scenario. All right, so first thing we're doing is getting that item from list A. So we need to get the details of it. This trigger might include all the data for such a simple list, but isn't always guaranteed. So I always like getting that item just to be sure I have the full schema for it. And then we're going to create an item in list B and create an item in list C. So pretty simple, straightforward. We're getting the item, and then in list B, we're just creating it with the title. And then, actually, sorry, let me clear this out because I meant to. All right. So the first thing we want to do really is just understand the format that those two column types need in this create item step. Or create item action. So for the multi-select person field, it's asking for a claims value. And if I go down to the list C, where that category column is, it's just asking for value. Now, if I go into one of these and say, I'll add Adele, and then add another value there, so I'll add Andrew. When I look at this, click this button here to view this as an array, it's going to expose what that data, the shape that data needs to have. If I want to write directly into this field in another list, or I should say in this list, this is how the data needs to be structured. So you're not going to get that by simply selecting the output of that column from list A. It would be great if that worked, but it doesn't. So what we need to do is figure out a way to structure the data from list A, from that column in list A, into this exact format. And this is a JSON array. So we've got a square bracket, we've got a curly brace, and then we have a key of claims. So that's the property name. And then the value is that person's, that user's claims value, which is their UPN or user principal name with this whole string in front of it. Bottom line, it's the way that it's the identifier that SharePoint uses for that user. It's their unique identifier. So that's what we need to get in this exact format. Now, we could do this a number of ways. We can create a variable, we could append to it. But honestly, the cleanest way to do it is with select. So I'm going to add an action here, and I'm going to search for select. And it is a data operation. So I don't know why it's being a little funky. There we go, select. All right, so I'm going to just rename this to select MSP, multi-select person. And where am I getting that? Now this is where it gets a little weird. So there you're going to see a lot of columns or a lot of dynamic items that say LA MSP. That's the name of the column. But you'll see all these different properties. There's claims, display name, email, picture, department, job title, item, and then just the name of the column. It is very important here in this from field. As the input for the select action, you need to select the one that has nothing after it. So just the column name, because that is the array of data stored in that column. In other words, this includes all of this. Now in the map here, I need to give it a key value, and that is going to be claims. And then for the value of that, we're going to select LAMSP claims. That's it. So what that'll do is when this flow runs, it's going to produce a, actually let's just do that now. Well, let me save the flow, and we'll see what that output looks like. So we're going to go here, go to automate, send from list B and C, and run this flow. So we'll go back over here, go back to our details page. It succeeded. So let's see what happened. So what we're doing is we're getting that list item from A, and further down here is this is the data that's actually in that LAMSP. So that's why we're selecting that as the source for the select action. And there is the claims value for the person that's selected. So when we look at, at our select action, we can see that it's producing output that is claims and that. And that's what we need. So now when I go into list B, well, it actually put in the ones that I manually specified there. So let's edit our flow here. And I just wanted to make sure we're getting the data, that the output of that select action looked like what it should look like. So we're going to go into list B, or create item in list B, and we're going to delete these. I'll clear this. And we're going to switch over to the array format. And then for the input of that, we're just going to select the select MSP, because the output of that is already in array format. So that's all we need to throw in there. Piece of cake. So in fact, we're going to do the same thing in list C. We're going to switch that to that and add the select. Now, in order to do the same thing with that category field, let's just take a look at that format. So if I go into select category, and we select animal and add a new one, and select mineral, and we look at that in the array format, there we have the key is value and the term is animal. So it's going to be similar. We're going to need a similar select action. So let me go to add an action, and we'll add that select action again. And this time we will select category. Now, again, for the category, there aren't quite as many properties there, but there's the one that just says category, and then there's category item and category value. Again, as the input for the select, you need to be sure to select the one that is just the column name. So I'll select category. And then in the map, again, looking in here, we need value as the key. So that's what we type in here. I have to type it correctly, obviously. Value. And then in the enter value, then we're going to select category value. All right, and then basically down in here, we will delete all of that, and we will drop in the output of select category. All right, so let's hit save and go back over to list A, and let's run that flow again. Send item to list B and C. Run the flow. And we can see it's succeeded. And if we look in list B, we should see 2 copies of list 1, or item 1 rather. There's that first one that we created with the statically entered multi-select people. Here's the second with which is a duplicate of the multi-select people from here. And then over in list C, we'll see that we have one, delete that blank one there, which has our multi-select people and the multi-select categories. Now let's try, because I did say that having that manually add value or manually enter a value kind of throws a wrench in things sometimes. So let's just try the flow with that. And again, automate, send to list B and C, and run that flow. Go to list B. There is item 3 with James, and list C, item 3 with James, animal, and person. So it brought that value in just as if it were, basically someone had manually entered it here. So, and the key again is getting it in that proper format. So again, looking at our select output here, what we need is from this whole spiel, we need to basically extract just the value animal or value key, and then the proper, or the actual value of that, and put it in this format, which is what the select allows us to do. So select is a really, really useful action to become familiar with, and there are a lot of places. Basically, anytime you're working with an array of data and you need to reformat that in some way, whether it's, in this case, we're extracting a specific property or specific key value pair from the array, or you might need to do some operation, maybe convert a date or a time, those sorts of things. Select is a great way to do that, because in that select action, basically the value side of it, you can use expressions there to, maybe you need to replace a text string, or again, convert a date or a time. But basically in this value side, you have the ability to create expressions, use expressions to reformat that data as you need it. So hopefully this is useful. Again, in your particular scenario, kind of how you're getting that data, you might be getting an array of an array value if you're getting multiple items from a list. But the point is, this is going to show you, or hopefully you now see how to get the specific format that you need to feed that data back into a multi-select person column or a multi-select choice column in SharePoint. So hopefully that was helpful. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know if you have any questions, problems, etc. So that's all I got. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.